Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the Burke County Board of Commissioners regular meeting for Tuesday, October the 15th, 2024. I'd like to note, Madam Clerk, that all commissioners, with the exception of Commissioner Moore, we are present tonight. He is out of town. And I would remind everyone to silence your mobile devices. Take care of that so that we don't get interruptions during our meeting tonight. Would remind all speakers who come to the podium tonight to please be sure the microphone is turned on. There'll be a red light on the podium when that is on. Please be sure of that. I have a number of things we want to mention tonight before we begin. As all of us know, we've been through the last 2.5 weeks or so, a very difficult time in our community with the storm Helene, and we want to at least recognize tonight the tremendous effort that has come from all across our community, both individuals, our government, all of our first responders, all the folks who have come together in just tremendous fashion to help us get through these last 2.5 weeks. And we sincerely appreciate the overwhelming support and want to extend our gratitude to everyone who has contributed goods and services and time and personal effort to help their friends and neighbors all throughout the community. So we want to note that tonight. And as we have invocation in just a moment, I would ask that we remember those who've been affected in tremendous ways through the storm. Some have lost their lives, and family members have been impacted in many different ways, and we want to remember those tonight as we pray together in just a moment. I also would like to mention tonight that we have lost one of our county family members, the retired employee of our building inspections department, Mr. Schechtel. Want to remember that family tonight as well. So at this time, I'd like to ask Pastor Keith Barnett to come and lead us in our invocation tonight. And following that, we'll have our Pledge of Allegiance be led by our county attorney. Let's stand together.
For all that you have done for us, and we come to you with the praise and the thanksgiving of your grace. And we come together in unity as we pray over our country and over our state and all those affected by the storm. Lord, we ask you to put a special hand over those families that is hurting. Comfort them, God, and give them their needs and strengthen them as we pray for their strength. And Lord, strengthen us to become more in unity with all those, God. And Lord, we pray over our county as far as our protection and our police department, our fire department, our EMS, all those that look after us, God. Help us to look after them. Help us to pray for them and strengthen them daily, God. Help us to remember them as well as they see the tragedy in the forefront of the battle, in the front of the guard, and that you would be there with them to strengthen them. And Lord, we pray tonight that by hearing your word, we are guided and directed to give you the glory in what you're doing in this state, in this county, as we come against the enemy and against doubts, that, Lord, that you will strengthen us as one. Protect us, God, while the day is daylight, that we can work. For your word says when night comes, we can't work, that no man will. But while it's daylight, Lord, let us work for you. Come in unity, and we'll thank you. In Jesus' name we pray.
Amen. Thank you, Pastor.
Please join me in the pledge to the flag.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right, gentlemen, tonight we have item number 4 on our agenda, approval of the agenda, and I'd like to ask that we add one item, if we could, to allow our county manager to give us an update on storm restorations and all the things that's going on within our county. If you wouldn't mind to add that to our agenda. With that addition, I would entertain a motion to approve the agenda.
Mr. Chairman, I would make a motion to approve the agenda with the amendment.
Thank you, Commissioner. All those in favor signify by the uplifted hand. And that's 4-0, Madam Clerk. We have tonight the approval of meeting minutes. Gentlemen, you have July the 16th, 2024 Board of Commissioners regular meeting. I'll entertain a motion to approve those minutes unless you have some corrections or additions.
Mr. Chairman, I make a motion we approve the minutes as written.
Thank you, Commissioner Smith. All those in favor signify by the uplifted hand. 4-0. And I believe at this point, just before we go into presentations, I'm going to ask our county manager to give us an update on storm activities and restorations and all the things that are going on in relation to the storm.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I share your gratitude for the community response. Today is, if I can count accurately, day 18 of what has been a very trying time for our community. And I have been personally, what I would say is at the front lines and witness to the community response, whether that is our faith community or volunteers or first responders or utility providers or restaurants providing food. The list just goes on and on and on for folks that were willing to have some level of self-sacrifice and be in problem-solving mode with countless hours, often saying no to their personal needs and their families' needs to put the community ahead of themselves. That's really been something that's been eye-opening to me and moving. But I'd like to take just a couple moments, if I could, to give you all a briefing on more specifically county operations, which are certainly a component of that and something that I think has equally been as remarkable. This board took action through the chairman to begin your emergency operation plan via declaration of emergency following the states on the 26th of September, so roughly 18 days ago. And that largely opened up access to resources. That EOC was immediately staffed with all of the key decision makers, and for the first 24 to 72 hours through storm management, it was all hands on deck. And there was no question about when and how things would be accomplished. It was a well-executed, well-coordinated effort that I simply cannot thank our folks enough for. There were air mattresses there at the 911 center where the EOC was first opened on the floor, and just the dedication from the folks. The plan really began as storm monitoring. We knew that the saturation from the week before, along with the inflow from the high country, and again, I think the approximate rain total here in Burke County was a tick under 10 inches, but it was creating water models that we simply had never seen. We knew that it would be a historic storm. I think that's some of the first descriptions that we were getting from our state EM folks, and it truly was that. We immediately shifted into life safety response. The 911 center fielded about 4,200 calls during the storm. Our entire 911 system went down. Literally, the fiber under Hunting Creek eroded to the point where it wasn't there. All comms essentially in the community were down. We sent telecommunicators to Catawba County where they fielded another roughly 300 calls there. I think I've shared this with each of you. It was important to our folks that they be in a position to answer calls and serve their citizens here in Burke County. And we're thankful for 911 availability in Catawba County. The backup PSAP, as designed, worked. We're thankful for that. We're also thankful that even though we deployed 75 swiftwater rescues through our special operations and mutual joint efforts with the rescue squad and even some out-of-state resources, that everybody was rescued. The lives that were saved are just countless. I think our evacuation order was heard, and I think that prevented additional rescue attempts. I think that was a token of wisdom, and I applaud Director Willis and Deputy Director Bishop for making that call and getting that message out to some of those more flood-prone areas. It was really a testament to see that coordination across all functions of county government. During that first 24 to 72 hours, there was also coordination with all of our fire departments to help clear the roads so that emergency traffic could move about. I think there was 330-ish or so welfare checks that were completed through law enforcement, as well as running normal calls and just being an asset on the ground, eyes and ears about what's going on in the community. All of that reporting back through the Emergency Operations Center. The next phase that became the priority was public infrastructure assessment, working with utility providers, municipal, county, and power generators, and trying to figure out how to get water back online, how to get power back online, what is the impact of our communication systems. And that, as you all know, really drives a lot of needs that sometimes are far beyond an inconvenience. Things like oxygen and insulin and access to life's critical assets. And largely after that phase, and a lot of heroic efforts, including flying, partnering, Director Willis through state EM in partnership with the city of Morganton flew what I'll call an emergency engineer in. Our Swiftwater team boated that person to the city's water treatment plant to immediately begin assessment of how to get that system back up. Simultaneously trying to facilitate getting assets in, waters and MREs and those type things, so that we could provide that to the community. I think the final count was about 9 tractor trailer loads of ice. That's a lot of ice. I think there's 1,250 bags, 7.5-pound bags on a tractor trailer load of ice. And I think that shows the critical need of trying to preserve food and make sure people have what they need. And slowly we transitioned from life-saving and public infrastructure assessment into recovery. And we know that that's going to be a long-term recovery. There is no overnight fix. Part of that was the donation center that was held at Foothills Higher Education Center over that week. And we were briefing about this morning. As we woke up on that Monday morning, really there was no mechanism, no system in place. And from Monday until the following, over the next 7 days, it served 7,000 people that came through that center that were needing, food and water and clothing and all the things that diapers and formula and all those type things. So really proud of that effort, really proud of the coordination, really proud of the execution. There's a lot of folks here tonight that were a big part of that, and with your permission, I'd just like to recognize them in teams, if that's okay. So I know I saw EMS and our special operations. So just so I don't call names and miss somebody, if anybody else from EMS or from our special operations team, if you just stand up. This is, yeah. Director Robinson and Captain Hood are both in the EOC the whole time. Captain Hood not only serves in EMS as a captain and on the special operations team leads that, he also is a new recruit to the EM side, and he's done a phenomenal job there. So I'm just incredibly grateful for that. I skipped, and unintentionally, the white shirts caught my attention. Director Willis, Mike Willis, our emergency management director, and the deputy director, Robert Bishop. I saw both of them. Anyone else from emergency management division? Now we've got the whole team. So can we just recognize that whole team, if you don't mind? I can tell you that team, we said 18 days, and it's been a very atypical 18 days. Most of those folks have not seen their family. That's the reality. And There was a member of that team who was severely impacted personally and never missed one day of work. We're talking 18-hour shifts every single day. We still start every day with a morning command briefing and conclude every day at 6 with, or at least the formality of operational staffing. And their day doesn't start there. And they've worked hand in glove with all of our municipal partners, all the fire departments, state emergency management, with FEMA. The list goes on and on and on. And I, probably not how Director Willis would have planned his final 90 days as a county employee, but we are incredibly grateful for his leadership and just could not be more proud of that entire team. I was speaking to a group, and I don't mean to diverge, but I was speaking to a group of community leaders here Friday before last, and I asked a simple question. For a 1,000-year storm, with all these things that are being managed logistically through the emergency operations plan, I asked for a guess in the group of how many folks worked in our emergency management department. And I had 3 guesses, and you were in the meeting. The lowest was 50. And if I had 50, Mike may stay. We have 4. And that, I think, just leverages the economies of scale of what all's been managed here. Also saw a large group of our 911 team here. So if you're in 911, can we just stand up and celebrate you just for a moment? I'll also point out that Chris White has acted as a deputy PIO during this entire public information officer and helped us push information out. So I can't say enough things. These folks this is the air mattress group. It was really impressive. And I tell you, to be in a communication industry without communication equipment, that's a little bit stressful. I saw the sheriff and I saw several members of law enforcement. Can we just say thank you to you? You stand and just say thank you to you. And I'll be brief, but if there's any other first responders or firefighters or any other county staff, I mean, we were having breakfast this morning with Deputy Director Bishop, and he said, you know, as a Deputy Emergency Management Director, it really was inspiring to him to see an HR director running a forklift, to see county commissioners helping coordinate donations, and so really, I mean, anyone else that's been part of our recovery and response. If we can just stand momentarily. That's all. I think that in our around day 7 or day 8, when we were in full-fledged recovery response mode, our IEP had 153 county employees working on this storm as a full-time commitment. So that was a pretty intensive response. That's, if you do that math, that's about 1,000 hours a day. So it's pretty significant. So I couldn't tell each of these folks how proud I am to serve with them, how moving it's been. I appreciate, we talk a lot about purpose and values in this organization and pursuing high performance, and really at the end of the day, we're here to invest in our community and make Burke County improve lives here, and I think that this whole process has been a testament to that. We still got a long way to go. I'll leave you with a couple of positive things that I think are going to help us in that recovery process. One, our debris collection contractor has mobilized. We're estimating somewhere between 375,000 and 400,000 cubic yards of material, and that's once it's reduced. So there's a lot of debris that has to be collected. We appreciate the patience of our community. I know that no one likes to see this stuff laying around, but our contract requires 120-day completion. So we do have, and that time frame's already began. We have to follow the federal regulatory guidance to make sure that we get reimbursed. This could be an $8 to $10 million cost that we want to make sure that we're being fiscally responsible for. But that has began. I think there were 10 trucks active today. We were able to prioritize some areas that incurred not only debris damage, but also flooding and all the things that come on with that. So I think that's very positive. And then just today, we found out, largely thanks to, I think, Commissioner Carswell, we've been advocating for a disaster recovery center, which is a huge asset to house FEMA experts to help individuals complete their individual assistance application and largely work things that are denials or find errors. And that's an incredible asset to our community that we, to this point, had not been fortunate enough to get confirmation on. And just earlier today, found out that they will be coming to Burke County as early as this weekend and be here through the 18th of December. So we'll be pushing out information about all the things they can help you with and how you may go about getting an appointment. But I think, yeah, largely, we got a lot to be thankful for. We've been very blessed. I appreciate the moment from the board to just recognize some of these folks that have done such a remarkable job. And I think that, you know, next will be continuing the recovery and also looking how we support our neighbors to the west that still have a long way to go too. So thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Mr. Manager, and I know I can speak for this board, and I think I can speak for all the citizens of the county for how much we appreciate all that each member of our county team has provided during this time, and I know that it's not over. We still got a lot of work to do, but our gratitude goes out to each member of our team, and thank you for all that each of you have done during these past 18 days or so. Thank you very much. All right, with that, we'll move to presentations tonight. First one coming from our Parks Director, Mr. Carla K Kate. Carla, good to see you.
All right, just give you a little update on kind of what we were doing in the Parks and Rec business, and just a little background of what my department covers. You can see with the Parks and Rec department, we run about 475.6 acres of park land and another 24 miles of hiking and biking trails across the county. My department's made up of 7 full-time, 1 part-time staff, and that includes me, 1 athletic director, program / conference center coordinator, and 4 maintenance staffs. We got an annual budget of about $825,000, and you know the cost per capita is about $10. So I think the citizens are getting their money's worth out of the Park and Rec business. This is just an update of our yearly athletic report. The first 2 sports are current. So right now we're in football and outdoor soccer season. We've got 29 football teams, roughly 130 games. That was before the storm, so it's all jumbled now. So, but anyway, we're in the process. We're making all of the regular season games up. So that's. But anyway, we got roughly 612 coaches in our football program. Our outdoor program has doubled. 2 years ago, that number was 29. We got 62 teams this year. 248 games, 744 participants and coaches. Our indoor soccer program is one of our largest. We have 143 teams, 572 games we scheduled. And that's roughly 1,486 participants and coaches. Basketball, 156, 702, and 1812. Baseball's 48, 216, and 720 players and coaches. We started this year, it's the first year of our track program. We ran track meets at all 4 high schools. And our first year, we had 40 participants in our track program, so that was nice. Some notable completed and projects in process. We did field 2 lights at REAP have been installed and operational. We replaced a couple of zero return mower that aged out. We installed some cameras at Spreet Park just to keep kind of the looters away. We replaced all the signs in the Limbo access area. Once that access area got turned over to Burke County and it's no longer wildlife, they will need to change the signs. So, and here's some notable, we're replacing a bridge at Spring. Now I'm gonna tell you, don't hold me to these dates because everything got backed up some because we are just now getting some of these parks back online. But we were hoping to get that somewhere around next month. We're replacing a walking bridge that has rotted out. We're resurfacing the parking lot up at Simpson Park, the upper one to the big field. That date's still good. We're repainting both concession stands. That's on hold right now. And building a new walkway at the MSD Connector Trail. I'm working with Sarah and some volunteers to get that because they're getting ready to open that section back up where they cut all the trees. So hoping to get that somewhere around February. And then we're replacing all the ball field light switches at REAP to make them manual so that you don't have to sit there and flip breakers on and off. So, this is a project that we just completed. Now I want to say thank you because now all 4 ball fields are ADA accessible. We paved the black part there, was all just rough mud, dirt. We never could get grass to grow there. So now that section, right there, is all asphalt now. So now there's access to the bleacher pads, and a person with a disability can just walk right or wheelchair right up to it. So that project has been completed about a month ago. Here's some capital projects that we have in the planning stages. And for y'all to know, me and lighting ball fields, we got one more field to light at REAP. That's the last one, I promise. We're in the planning stage of a bike trail. We got about 14 acres on the backside of the river that's still our property. It's part of the park that we're looking to turn into a bike trail. We're looking at paving the upper parking lot just so we can get more parking for our seasonal or weekend tournaments that go on at REAP just about every weekend. We're working on a playground at the Poniflora the county park up there at the lake. And then we're still in the planning stages for the park and walking trail up at Jonas Ridge. All right, and another aspect of my department is we run the conference center down there, and this was I just highlighted some of the events that we got going on there. UNC Health uses it quite a bit. Burke County Public Schools use it for some construction rodeo, job fairs. We do have a 2-week state water school where all for the western half of North Carolina comes, and that's where they learn and get their certificates for their water, sewer, and drinking water. And it's just some various other events that we have down there, and bookings are pretty good. And we spoke today in a meeting that place was invaluable for what just happened. I don't know where we could have done what we did if we didn't have that conference center to run out of. So that's it for me. Any questions?
All right, thank you, Trey. You guys are doing a tremendous job. Any questions, comments for Trey?
Just thank you for everything you guys do.
Thank y'all.
I imagine you'll have just a little bit of cleanup on these
No,
trails.
we got it. We're working on it. We're getting ready to put spring REAP. The REAP opened up yesterday. Spring, they just cleaned up today. So we got that back open. The last one that'll be clean, well, Parker Road the upper part is bad. I don't know when it's going to be, but we'll eventually get it.
All right, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Gentlemen, I entertain the motion to accept the report as presented.
So moved, Mr. Chairman.
All those in favor signify by the uplifted hand. 4-0. All right, tonight we have no scheduled public hearings. That'll bring us to item number 8, informal public comments. Madam Clerk.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. We have 3 folks pre-registered. The first one is Locke Hoffman.
Hi, everybody. This is about information and dissemination, which is part of our problem with the storm. We did not get good information about how bad it was going to be. This is the third time I've been here to talk about a messed up library. First, I called attention to its inadequacies, but you did nothing. Then I spoke about the library's employment and training center for homosexuals. You didn't seem to care. But today, I'm going to speak about something you do care about: money, cash. The Van Noppen family are making bank with the public library. One way they're doing so is because there's nothing for serious readers in the library. If you want a good book and want to actually see it before you buy it, Thornwell Books is the only place to go. Conveniently located only 2 blocks from the useless library, it seems to be very successful, as it's full of people every time I would go by. Could this not be an accident, but a plan? If so, it's a very good one, for the Van Noppens, that is, not for the taxpayers of Burke and North Carolina. Did you know there's such a thing as the Library Foundation of Burke County? Unfortunately, this organization is completely opaque. In theory, money is supposed to flow from the foundation into the library. If that is happening, there's no sign of it in the form of books or other educational materials on the shelves. Could it be that instead that money is flowing from the taxpayers to the library, then into the foundation, and from there into the hands of certain people and families? I tried to talk to the foundation chair, Jean Van Noppen. She did not return my phone calls. I went to see her at the bookstore. She said only, "I don't want to talk about the library." The strange thing is, she was the office of Thornwell Books at the time. She and the Van Noppens own the bookstore, and they might as well own this foundation as well. This is clearly a conflict of interest. It's possible that nothing illegal is happening. However, I've never seen such guilty acting people in my life. At least not since ex-mayor Andrew M. Kistler was stealing from the library at the tune of $10K per year. At least we knew how much he was stealing. The Van Noppens could be stealing much more since no one is paying any attention. There's 3 ways you could deal with this. You can just ignore this conflict of interest as you've done before. You could investigate the Van Noppens and others on this board, like Vice Chair Roundtree Collett and Treasurer Mark Miller. Or you could rush down there and tell them what you know and try to get a cut of the action. You choose. That's all I've got to say. I got to go catch the Carolina game. Thank you for your service. You're missing the first game of the year.
Thank you. Madam Clerk.
Carla K Kate.
Good evening, everyone. Carla K Kate, reside right here in Burke County. And I know that everybody's been through this storm. Everybody's been through the disaster. And I think everybody's did a great job around in this area and responding and everything. FEMA as well as everybody else. We are still seeing dump trucks up and down the road and electrical vehicles up and down the road at 181. It's still busy there. And so those helping people up in Avery County as well as up into Tennessee. And we did have some problems with some of the militias in some of the areas up above us. I'm sure nobody's a part of that in Burke County, over there in Lake Lure and everywhere else. I've responded to some of the comments I've seen on Facebook. Shame on them. But I was just wanting to say that, you know, as I went throughout the community today, there are FEMA workers now in this area, and he said he just got released for this area because of the inability to come because of the militias in the mountains, and everybody I know's heard of that, as far as the militias making threat, and even I think there's been one arrest so far. And so I would hope that here in Burke County, and I don't know whether you guys address that or you intend to address it tonight, to make sure that we'll consider it to the FEMA workers that's now in our area assessing damages. He had his tag on, he let me see his tag, there's a lot of information on that tag. And he also had me to, told me also that he showed me the seals that was on that tag that made him official, because there are people going around impersonating FEMA workers. So I just wanted to know, I didn't know if you guys were going to address that tonight, if you even know that they are in this area now assessing damage. In addition to that, we've got an election coming up, and we will not be meeting and seeing each other until that election is over. I've had people in the community that is kind of concerned about what will take place, win or lose on either side. And they wanted to know if we were prepared as a county and as a city for whatever things may take place. And we hope that don't happen in Burke County. But we do have people, you know, some of the people who are running, I won't mention no names, but they are vowing to their voters that if they win, they would change the name back to Fort Bragg, Fort Liberty to Fort Bragg. So, you know, people concerned about, you know, just what may take place in any area. And I think we've heard that on the news as well. And so I've had people in this area that are concerned about what are we doing in the county and the city to prepare for anything that may take place. And again, I said that, thank you, FEMA. Thank everybody. I'm grateful. And that's all I have for you today. Thank you for listening.
Thank you, Ms. Kincaid. Madam Clerk.
Ron Michaud.
Good evening, Commissioners. My name is Ron Michaud. I'm the owner of Imol Enterprises, a small company. I've been to different cities, working, mud, trees, helping people that's going through a bad time. But I would like to say Burke County, City of Morganton is at the top of the food chain. The volunteers here have broke their backs helping each other. And I'm a witness to see this. And I'd like to thank all the first responders, fire department, sheriff's department, police department, Grace Hospital, ambulance service. And I would like for everybody in here to stand and give the volunteers a hand, if you would, please. I've been down to the Western Piedmont building, and it was very organized with the food chain, helping people. You see volunteers helping people get food in cars, no arguing. I was down there for several days delivering water and whatever to people that couldn't come. And I would like to thank, we have a distribution center at Willow Tree Church. We've had 10 53-footer tractor trailers come from New York, Maryland, Washington, D.C., with items. And if anybody needs anything, you're welcome to come Saturday. And a lot of the stuff is going to the mountains. but we're giving the people in the county first pick. And then we have another truck coming next Tuesday. But I appreciate all the help from the volunteers and everybody in the county, and thank you, and God bless you.
Thank you, Mr. Michelle. Madam Clerk.
That's all the cards.
All right, thank you very much. This brings us to item number 9 tonight, our consent agenda. I'll ask our county manager to review the consent agenda at this time.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Several items for consideration. Item 1 is a proclamation for November 3rd through the 9th to be National Animal Shelter Appreciation Week. So that proclamation is in your packet for consideration. Item 2 is a designation of Commissioner Randy Burns to be appointed by this board to the Legislative Goals Committee for the North Carolina Association of County Commissioners. Item 3 is an application for a Great Trail State grant program. This would be for 2 separate trail extensions. One would be to repair some weather-impacted trails up around the lake, and specifically running through a couple of neighborhoods, 1780 and Enclave, as well as extending for the recent Patty's Creek area. The applications do require a $1 match for every $2 of grants. The grant application is 2 separate grants, both totaling $500,000, and the appropriation was included in your multi-year CIP plan. Item 4 for consideration, if you'll recall, at your September meeting, at the expiration of the Harbor grant, which was originally a lead grant to fund Recovery Court, you extended that for 30 days. We have met with our 3 district court judges as well as our opioid task force and have a resolution for consideration that would extend Recovery Court through June of 2025. From now until that time period, we will continue to collect recovery outcome data and present back to this board at your work session in March to make a more long-term decision about Recovery Court. But this is a resolution from opioid settlement dollars to extend Recovery Court through June of 2025. Item 5 is from the Tax Department. This is your collection report for September 2024. And item 6 is your standard monthly release and refund report for September as well. Mr. Chairman, I'm happy to answer any questions you may have about any of those items.
Thank you, Mr. Manager. Gentlemen, any questions on any of the items in the consent agenda? Being here none, I'll entertain a motion.
Mr. Chairman, I make a motion we approve the consent agenda.
Thank you, sir. All those in favor signify by the uplifted hand. 4-0, Madam Clerk. Brings us to items for decision. We have several items tonight to consider for decision. First, coming from our county manager, animal shelter and EMS headquarters bid award. Mr. Manager.
Thank you again, Mr. Chairman. An exciting opportunity here to take a step forward in our capital improvement plan, year 2 of that original plan that was presented in March of 2023. As a reminder, this evening we're talking about specifically animal services and EMS Base 1, which will also act as our headquarters. I would remind you that in 2020, Burke County engaged with an architectural firm, Mosley Architects, to conduct a facility assessment. They went through all of the building infrastructure in all of Burke County, all of our buildings, and they rated each building across 6 criteria, mechanical, plumbing, structural, and gave those a score of 1 through 5. And these were 2 of our lowest scoring buildings. If you visited either one of them, I think that a lot of that is self-explanatory. I would also remind you that EMS Base 1 is co-located on the hospital's property, the very back side of the hospital. That's been a long-term lease with the hospital, I think more than 50 years. And as they're continuing to grow and expand, I think it's in their best interest to utilize that space. So our lease actually expired in June of 2023, and our partners there have been more than cooperative and willing and allowed us to continue to occupy that space, understanding that we were working towards a new building that would allow us to consolidate not only as a response base with transport division, a 24-hour deployment, but also headquarters for administration. Right now, we're scattered about. So we think bringing training and administration and all those things into one area will be something that's highly beneficial, productive. The base location also correlates really well when you do a heat map of call volume. As you would imagine, the population density of the Morganton area aligns well with this Drexel Road property. The property was purchased in Q1 of 2023. It's 4 acres. The acquisition price was $400,000. All of that was funded through a General Assembly directed grant specifically for EMS land purchase. To this point, there's been no investment in land, and moving forward, as you'll see as we talk about the presentation, both buildings and the majority of the CIP plan is being allocated and appropriated through one-time federal supplanting of federal grant dollars. On the animal services side, that building too is not a county-owned building. Once we no longer use it, there's a long-term agreement with the city of Morganton, and it'll revert back to them. There's 16 canine kennels and an inadequate amount of cat spaces in that building too for a community of our size. It also really challenges it's a real job for our staff to keep that building in adequate shape for inspections and to meet all of the Department of Agricultural requirements. So we're really looking forward to being able to offer the community a little better place to do business, and we think both of these will be long-term solutions to these critical departments. Just as a reminder, we did follow several of the projects that we are currently working on. For example, East Burke and the courthouse we've done through alternative bidding models because of the complexity of the logistics. We felt like both of these projects were good, suitable for single prime bidding, which we all know as low hard bid, which means that we design a product, we put it out in the market, we try to solicit competitive bids and choose the lowest responsive bid. So we've worked through to this point selecting the design and engineering team, all of the civil and conceptual, to the point where we have completed bidding and are here tonight to ask you to consider a construction contract. One of the things that I think we would point out, and we talked about this last year when we started moving this direction, we do have 2 separate buildings, and functionally they both are similar in that they're basic administrative spaces, but an animal shelter and an EMS headquarters also have some differences. So we, in the bidding process, allowed contractors to bid on one building or the other, or to have a joint bid. We also had a single architectural design engineering contract for both buildings, so instead of paying duplicate design cost, we were able to consolidate that into one 6.3% fee. We think we had some economies of scale and some cost savings there. It also helped with coordination of logistics and speed to market. But we because the sites are so close together, only a few miles, we felt like a regional size construction firm may be able to deploy one superintendent and cut down on some of their overhead, squeezing their margins. We also felt like when it's time to order materials, whether that's roofing materials or structural steel or HVAC equipment, that bulk purchase may provide some discounts that are then passed along to the county to reduce our per square foot cost. Here's just a rough calendar of where we've started since the design RFQ was first issued back in August of 2023, and we're moving towards what we think is substantial completion in the backside of 2025. Holland and Hammock and Greg Melton, who is a principal in Holland and Hammock Architecture, is here with us tonight, and they've been our partner since late last year through the design phase on both buildings. We've had a steering committee, multifunctional, animal services, EMS, central administration, to help drive these projects along, and largely I think our systems have worked well. This is just an exterior rendering of the animal services building. Both have gone through the appropriate permitting and application process with the city. This is the EMS base conceptual rendering, and we can speak to floor plans if you'd like. Questions you may have, but I know we've spent a long time on it. What I would close with is, as we went through the bidding process, we had a mandatory pre-bid conference. This room was full. There were 50 people in this room. So I think that there was, you know, a lot of interest in working with the county and a lot of interest in this concept of a jointly bid project. We ultimately landed with beam construction. I would point out that beam at the base bid of 13.3 with alternate 2, and I'll explain what these are, 3 and 5, is the recommended construction firm at $13,504,000. That was $1.1 million lower than the next bid. Hickory Construction, followed by Neal, was finished in second and third, and Hickory was $1.1 million more than this 13.5 cumulative. Quickly on the alternates, building code now responds for buildings that are more than 7,500 square feet, that they be tested through the construction period to see if public safety radio communication will operate appropriately through partitions, and it is responsible, I think, to budget for that cost should you need it. If it passes, you may not have to use that contingency, but it is, again, administrative building code to make sure that first responders and public safety folks can communicate inside the building in the event of emergency. The fire alarm doesn't require any additional cost, and alternate 5 is some flooring that we think has a little higher level of resiliency over a long-term use of this building. So, Mr. Chairman, I'm happy to answer any questions you may have about this one. Again, Greg Melton with Holland and Hemrick is here if there's specific mechanical or floor plan questions. But we're excited to get to this point and ask the board for this consideration.
Thank you, Mr. Manager. Gentlemen, any questions or concerns on this item?
I would just like to comment that I've kept up with this pretty diligently since it started. I even come to one of the bid meetings, and the thoughtful process and the way that the county staff went about getting this done and getting us to this point, I very much appreciate. The savings especially.
Other questions?
Mr. Epley, could you tell the audience and citizens where this money's coming from to pay for this? How much local county money is going to pay for this?
Yeah, so there is the funding strategy for much of what's in the multi-year CIP plan is supplanting federal tax dollars that have very prescriptive allowable cost. They're one-time dollars, so once they're not reoccurring. I think it's important to say neither of these we expect to have an increase in staffing or increase in operational cost. And the building and the brick and mortar, the construction, the design, the civil engineering, all of that. I mentioned the EMS land was bought with a state General Assembly directed grant. Both of these projects, the full $13,504,000, will be supplanting federal grant. So no local property tax or sales tax dollars in that mechanism.
Other questions, comments? Hearing none, I'll entertain a motion.
Mr. Chairman, I make a motion to award a bid to Beam Construction Company Incorporated in the amount of $13,504,000 for construction of a new EMS headquarters and a new animal shelter, including alternates 2 for $130,000 for emergency radio responders, alternate 3 for a firelight fire alarm, and alternate 5, $28,000 for stone hard flooring. Further, to approve the related construction contract subject to review and or revision by the county attorney, and authorize the chairman to execute the contract on behalf of this board.
Thank you, Mr. Carswell. All those in favor signify by the uplifted hand. Madam Clerk, that's 4-0. Thank you, Mr. Manager. This brings us to item number 2, Veteran Services, resolution in support of Operation Greenlight. This will be presented tonight by Molly Yeller, our Veteran Service Director. Good afternoon, Molly.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you, Commissioners, for the opportunity to share Operation Greenlight. Operation Greenlight is an opportunity for Burke County to join our colleagues across North Carolina and across the nation to participate in an initiative designed to shed the light on services of veterans. Operation Greenlight is also an opportunity to raise awareness of the resources available to veterans and their families. For 1 week in October, that includes Veterans Day, we would like to illuminate as many Burke County-owned buildings with green lights as we did last year. Additionally, we would like to extend an invitation to the whole community to encourage their participation as well. These are a few of the pictures from around the county and surrounding neighborhoods. That first one on the left is the Burke County Administrative Offices on Avery Ave. The one next to it is the historic Burke County Courthouse. This picture here is the City of Morganton Public Safety Center. The one on the right is the Morganton Savings Bank. Right here, there's some pictures of lights at the Burke County schools. And there's some more inside of the schools in Burke County. Operation Greenlight runs from November 4th to November 11th, which is Veterans Day. Okay, so today I'm here to ask you, the Board of Commissioners, to adopt resolution to declare November 4th through the 11th as the time to recognize our Burke County veterans with Operation Greenlight project. Any questions?
All right, thank you, Molly. Any questions for Molly? All right, hearing none, I'll entertain a motion for this resolution.
Mr. Chairman, I make a motion to adopt resolution number 2024-24.
Thank you, Commissioner Smith. All those in favor signify by the uplifted hand. That's 4-0. Thank you very much. Third item comes from Finance, Capital Project Ordinance for Hurricane Helene Disaster Recovery Grant. This will be presented by our Finance Director, Margaret Pierce. Evening, Margaret.
Good evening, gentlemen. Thank you. We may have a few costs to add, luckily not to the budget, but we will need a capital project ordinance to start off with for our Hurricane Helene disaster recovery. The nice thing about a disaster like this is the big pieces are done fairly soon, but the financial piece does take a few more years to settle. So we're going to be working on this for a little while. We wanted to put it into a multi-year capital project fund. We will be coming back, I'm sure, later with additional dollar amounts to talk about, but for now we need to start with a $3 million budget. It should, at this point in time, we feel be fully funded by FEMA with no county dollars based on everything. This will start us with the categories. There are about 8 different categories of funding and applications we'll be doing with FEMA. We've started the initial application, and category A, which is debris removal, is started, and then category B is our emergency procedures that we've gone through over the first 72 hours. We'll come back later to talk about the rest of the categories. Category Z is the very last one we'll work with you on.
Thank you, Margaret. I get a feeling that your storm is about to begin.
It is. We've had some wonderful resources start off from the Monday after the storm contacting us from our coastal sister counties and cities that said, we've been through this 1,000 times, what can we do to help? That's been incredible. We had a gentleman show up from Salisbury and work with us for a week that was very familiar with things on our some of the reporting and things to help us with that. Several of the different areas have been in our county working with us. This week through next Tuesday, we have 2 from New York State that are working logistics, making sure we're reporting our equipment, getting our documentation started on that in the right way. So we've been very appreciative of all the support, documents, spreadsheets, calls. Everybody's been sharing throughout the state. I can't say enough about how they've all supported us, and they recognize we're novices at hurricanes up here in the mountains, so we are getting some great support.
All right. Thank you, Margaret. Gentlemen, you've heard the information. Any questions for Margaret on this item? Seeing none, I'll entertain a motion.
Mr. Chairman, I make a motion to adopt ordinance number 2024-20.
Thank you, Commissioner Smith. All those in favor signify by the uplifted hand. 4-0. Thank you, Margaret.
Thank you.
All right, this brings us to reports and comments tonight. I'll open the floor to receive reports and comments from the board and professional staff at this time. I'll start down with Ms. Margaret.
Again, I just can't say enough for the support we've gotten, and internally we've had everybody pulling together and working on things. Those that don't know what a 214 is, don't know the heaven they've all been put through trying to get payroll this week, and that's been a mammoth task, and we appreciate everybody's support.
Thank you, ma'am. Mr. Attorney.
Just a couple points of privilege, if I may. We've heard a lot tonight about our EMS and our emergency management, our 911, our swiftwater rescue teams. My family had a opportunity to see this up close and personal when my 94-year-old physically disabled mother had to call upon 911 to rescue her from a flood situation. And I don't know who was on that swiftwater rescue team. I do know the Longtown fire chief was involved because I talked to him personally. And they somehow got a 94-year-old immobile woman into a boat and kept her calm the entire way and got her to dry land where her family could take her to shelter. And they're forever heroes to the Simpson family, and I thank you. A second point I want to make is I try to keep up with former commissioners, and we had a former commissioner who passed away since our last meeting on September 25th, 2024. George Clark was a commissioner in the early 80s. I worked with George a couple summers at Enmont, where he was in charge of giving the summer workers something to do, and he was great at that, and just a good fellow that liked to argue politics, and we could argue all day long. And it's sad, but he has passed away.
Thank you, JR. I appreciate those comments, and another awesome testament to our folks in EMS and emergency management and all the folks that help to take care of your mom. Madam Clerk.
No comments for me tonight, thank you.
Mr. Manager.
I'll just add that the young man that led that team is sitting right in front of you, Mr. Attorney. Captain Hood led that team. He's sitting right there.
All right. Mr. Smith.
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to thank Molly Eller and everything she does for the veterans in Burke County in the state of North Carolina. Thank you, Molly. And I'd like to send out a special thank you personally to Sheriff Heintzman, all the fire departments, EMS, and there's so many of the 911, all of you. I can't remember all of you, but thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Burns.
I just want to kind of reiterate everything that's been said tonight. And, you know, as I look around the room, I see faces of folks that I saw day and night, it felt like. And, you know, I wasn't always able to stay with them, but I could disappear for 4, 5, 6 hours and I come back and they're still there and they were working. And I'm one of those people that if I'm sitting around and I'm having an opportunity to meditate to myself, I typically write things down, and I want to read something to you that I had written. In times like these, the heart of our community truly reveals itself, whether it's coming together to face challenges or finding new ways to support one another. We show our strength through unity, compassion, and determination. It's in these moments that we remind ourselves that we're more than neighbors, we're family. And I believe that wholeheartedly. I've seen my brothers and sisters out there this week. I saw a county manager with boots on and work gloves loading debris from the side of a road to help some folks out. I mean, it's just, I've been very moved and touched over this time, over this period. And I've seen people that lost everything that are still, they were coming to work day in and day out and they were doing their job, and the first thing in their mind was the people that they serve. And I just want you all to know that I'm just in awe of that. So let's continue to stand together, lift each other up, and ensure that our community remains a place where everyone feels valued, cared for, and heard. I'm so proud of what you all have accomplished, and even more hopeful based on what I've seen for what's ahead. And I want all of you to know that I am so proud of my Burke County family, and thank you, each and every one of you.
Thank you, Commissioner Burns. Commissioner Carter.
One of the things that happened over this past weekend, Randy and I went to NCACC, well, it'll be my first and last meeting of the new board. One of the things that occurred was that most of our staff at NCACC, including our executive director and our staff worked over at the state EOC. Will Ray had, the state executive directors had nothing but just compliments for that staff. But here's what happened. The staff was able to talk to a lot of county managers in western North Carolina. Been a lot of accolades thrown out tonight, but not many has been thrown out to Brian Epley. He is highly regarded in the state. The people at the EOC knew who Brian Epley was when they talked to him. And the folks at EOC understood that Burke County had a plan when a lot of other people weren't able to, plus they didn't have the people in place. It's taken years to get us to be where we're at today, and I'm very proud of that at the organization that we have, but it takes leadership at the top when it started with Brian Steen on through Brian Epley. So Brian Epley, I commend you. This county commends you for everything that you did. Like you say, you put on your work boots and you went out there. My family personally, like JR, my daughter, the bridge to their house over the Jacobs Ford River went away, and they didn't have food, water, no electricity. Thank you, Jeff, for getting that back. And it was just the fire department at Enola put they laid a ladder across the ravine at Jacobs Fork River so that we could try to walk food in to my daughter to 4 days to get them out over there so that we could get them over to my house where there was no electricity. But at least they had a place, you know, that we were all together and we could pray together and we could find food to eat. So when they asked me this weekend to say something, I said, I can't tell you about the devastation. Randy and I heard stories from Burke, Buncombe, McDowell, Avery, and Mitchell, stories that I never want to hear again about people and how they've had to suffer. And they have suffered. And I told the people down there, words can't describe. You have to walk it, you have to talk it, you have to see it, you have to touch it, you have to smell it. It's the only way you'll know what devastation and decimation there was in these counties. But the people pulled together, and they worked hard together because people up here are very resilient. And I think the people down east figured that out after a while. They would be calling and finding out, you know, what the people up here were doing. But thank God we were able to get supplies and food into people. So I don't know what to say to all you people out here. Words can't describe what you've done and how you reacted to this, but just God bless each and every one of you. Will Ray, our state emergency manager, stopped on Saturday and spoke to us and tried to answer some questions. And he walked in and he hugged me up and he was crying. And the first thing he said, "Are you okay?" Not anything about himself. And he cried and he said, "Are you okay?" I said, "Will, I'm okay." I said, "But you don't look so good." He said, "I haven't seen my wife and my children in 9 days," because he'd been up west. And he told us, Randy, if I get this wrong, correct me on it, but he said they had kind of estimated that there was between $6 and $10 billion worth of damage in western North Carolina right now, $6 and $10 billion. I think it's going to be on the upper side of 10 before it's all over with. But we have to commend our state folks. They were doing everything. I commend the 5 trucks from Pennsylvania that came out and give me power back, Jeff. That's amazing, 5 trucks. And our DOT, after we had to cut, me and my neighbor was trying to cut one tree down. His chainsaw was on the east side and mine was on the west side, and our blades never met. I just had forgotten how big the oak trees are here in Burke County. It's unreal. But neighbors helping neighbors, you know, just to try to open a road so that you could go. find something. And the people that were at the gas stations, some of them weren't nice. Some of them weren't nice at all. They was cursing a lot of people because they had their gas cans down there. I said to one fine gentleman, I said, these people are trying to get gas for their generators. You know, why don't you go somewhere else, because you've only been sitting in line an hour and a half waiting to buy gas. But overall, everybody was great. They understood, and we did everything together. I haven't asked you what happened to your home in McDowell County. I hope it wasn't bad, but I figure it was, okay? But my heart just bleeds for a lot of people. There were a lot of deaths in North Carolina, and some still counting and unaccounted for. And a lot of stories that were just horror stories that we heard when we were having our NCACC meeting this past weekend. So again, for everybody here in Burke County, for what you do, John, for getting JR's mama out, thank you. You know, Chris, everything that you did, all the rest of it in the county. I will leave here one more blessed human being, and I appreciate that. Thank you for the latitude, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Mr. Carson. Of course, most of you know that I'm in the electric business, so we spent the last 18 days with lots and lots of help from all over the Southeast, Tennessee, Virginia, South Carolina. We've had men from everywhere and women to help us throughout this storm. And our system at one point was some 90% in the dark. So just tremendous devastation all over our system. We serve in parts of 10 counties, and I think perhaps the worst in McDowell that I have seen in the areas that we serve. But great thanks to our own folks locally who helped us, as well as all these folks who came from all over to give us assistance to get the folks back with their lights on. So again, great thanks to everyone who has worked together. And I just can't say enough about our community, what they did. Okay. Some reminders. Election day is coming, November the 5th. Get out and vote. Early voting begins the day after tomorrow, November the 4th, first day of Operation Greenlight. Molly has reminded us of that. And November the 8th, EMS Station 1 and Animal Shelter groundbreaking at 3 p.m., rain or shine. Reminder that November the 11th, county offices will be closed in observance of Veterans Day. Landfill and convenience sites will remain open during its regular business hours. Again, reminder to our youth groups that might be willing to come and lead us in our pledge here at our meeting as well. With that, I'll go now to our report from our DSS, monthly operation report. Recognize our DSS director, Corey Fisher-Wellman. Good evening, Corey.
Oh, sorry. There we go. Operational report, going to touch on a couple different things involving personnel, operations, capital, and then a couple of emerging issues. So first, just looking at our personnel, we have about 199 FTEs. If you look at the chart there, you can see we've experienced pretty significant growth over the last 5 years, including 6 positions we were able to add in 2023 as a result of Medicaid expansion funding. And then in addition to the personnel additions, we've also been able to, our leadership team at DSS has been able to identify 5 positions, I think, in the last year that we've reclassified to try to create some more efficiencies and help our operations. There's a breakdown of each. The first graph there is citizens per social worker, and then citizens per IMC, which is our economic services worker. And you can see we do stack up pretty favorably in terms of how many citizens we have per social worker or per IMC. I think there are some other contributing factors in that we have a higher number of kids in foster care, for instance, per capita than some other counties. So while our staffing looks good. We still have a pretty high need. And then if you look there at the bottom, we're right on target in terms of spending for personnel. We spent about a quarter of our budget in the first quarter. And then additionally, in the last 90 days, we've experienced about 9% turnover, which is fairly normal for an agency of our size and for DSSs across the state. A little bit of an operational update. In 2017, the General Assembly created an MOU that counties had to enter into with the Department of Health and Human Services that measure metrics throughout DSS. This is a snapshot of the 13 metrics in economic services, and you can see there that this is just, I believe, 1 month at a time, but we achieved all those except for timeliness of SA applications, and those are typically a smaller number, so that's likely that 1 or 2 applications were untimely in August, which led to us being slightly below the benchmark. But year over year, we have traditionally always met our economic service MOU measures and typically also meet our child welfare and adult services MOU measures as well. And then this is just a look at our children who are experiencing foster care. We currently have about 185 children experiencing foster care in Burke County. That number is fluid. Children enter and leave foster care regularly, so that number has hovered right around 200 for the last several years. If you look there at the bottom, you can see the different types of care that our children are in. I think the purpose of this is to demonstrate that the cost, that each type of care comes with a different cost, which is kind of broken down there. And then if you look at the other graph, that shows our number of kids in care over a rolling time as compared to some of our neighbors. I mentioned earlier that we do tend to, if you look at Lincoln, for instance, I believe they have 89 kids in care, whereas we have close to 200. I think there's obviously a number of factors that contribute to children experiencing foster care that we've talked about for years in terms of the tremendous substance abuse issues we have in this county, along with it is sometimes difficult to help families find access to services in this county. I think that there has been some progress made, but I think that is a contributing factor to why our number of kids in care tends to be on the higher side. In terms of capital, just a little bit of update about our building. We did experience, our building was without power for several days, and there was a little bit of water damage that occurred within the building. So as a result, there was some environmental testing that was completed to ensure that mold or toxins or all those types of things weren't present. So for about 2 weeks, we were co-located with TREG over at the Higher Ed Center, along with the distribution center. So there was a whole lot of action happening in one building, but IT did a tremendous job of helping us set up a makeshift DSS in a couple of hours. And we did the best we could there for about 7 to 10 days, but we were happy to get back into our building. I believe last Thursday was our first day fully back. And then just in terms of long-term planning, continuing to explore options for a future location for Health and Human Services. And then lastly, just a couple of emerging issues. I think one thing that has plagued DSSs across the state is just the lack of child placement options. It's a very complicated issue, but there's a lot of kids in foster care across the state, and there are fewer and fewer foster care placements across the state. So that can look a lot of different ways. I think locally we are working hard to increase the number of foster parents that we have. That certainly will make a difference. But we also, kids who are experiencing foster care have experienced a tremendous amount of trauma, which often leads to them having higher needs and needing a higher level of care. And there has been a tremendous decrease in behavioral health placements across the state. So on any given night, I think there's 23 kids across the state of North Carolina who are sleeping in a DSS office. So if you look at 23 out of 100, you have about a 25% chance every single night that there's going to be a kid sleeping in the office at DSS. And I think we looked at some numbers yesterday. I think this calendar year, we're just under 200 days here in Burke County that we've had a kid sleeping in our office. So that has a whole bunch of, obviously that's terrible for children. These are kids who have experienced awful things, and then they're having to sleep in an office building. But then the impact that has on staff who are having to work 24 hours a day. There's a tremendous financial cost to operating 24 hours a day, and the overtime that's incurred with staff having to work those hours. So that is certainly an emerging issue that's not just for us, but for all DSSs across the state. And then second, this is the result of obviously the recent disaster. We will be beginning a disaster supplemental nutrition and assistance program, probably going to be referred to as, you'll hear it referred to as DSNAP. This program will start on Friday. From the best we can tell, this is the first time we've ever done DSNAP in Burke County. This happens all the time in the east. Counties in the east are used to having hurricanes, used to doing DSNAP. This is new to us, so we're learning on the fly. We have a plan in place to serve folks beginning Friday, but I guess the eligibility criteria, this is for people who are not receiving, who typically don't receive EBT or SNAP benefits. So people who experience loss as a result of the hurricane can come and apply for a 1 month's EBT. There is a call center that's being operated that I would encourage citizens to use, because there will likely be long wait times. And in talking to some of our eastern partners, they serve sometimes 1,000 to 1,500 people a day, which our building is not used to having 1,000 or 1,500 people a day. So you can imagine there will likely be long lines. So the more people that can use the call center, the better. We are fortunate enough to have, actually the director of Carteret County is going to be on the ground with us here Friday, helping us just with logistics, and she's sending a couple other of her staff to help out all week. And then also her staff are going to, on the back end, key applications remotely from Carteret County to help take the workload off some of our staff. So we'll be doing that 7 days straight, Monday through Friday, typical office hours, and then Saturday and Sunday it's 9 to 2 p.m. And then just lastly, this is a little more uplifting, but this is the 4th year that we've been collecting gifts for children experiencing foster care. So we are in the process of trying to solicit donors. So we try to get about 500 donors, and that allows for the cost to be spread out amongst the 200 kids. But each tag is about $30 to $50 per tag, and then we look at trying to get those back over a 2-week period at the end of November, and then get them out to our young folks experiencing foster care early in December. And there's some, we can send this flyer around. There's some contact information on there, and we're happy to answer any questions. But also, any other questions about anything I've talked about tonight?
All right, thank you, Corey. Gentlemen, any questions for Corey on his report or any of these items that are ongoing?
I would like to ask one question, but if this in any way violates the security or safety of any of the kids, I'll just simply say this: 185 children are not all in Burke County, or are they?
In terms of where they're placed,
Yeah.
very few, I would say probably 30% are placed in Burke County, maybe 40%. The majority are definitely not placed in Burke County.
Okay.
Which then, I mean, that plays a role in reunification when it's hard to visit when your kid's placed 3 or 4 hours away. It's
And do we transport those children?
we do, well, a couple things. I mean, there's always, typically when a kid enters foster care, there's court-ordered visitation, and we will either go pick the child up and bring them to visitation, or depending on what's best for the kid, sometimes we will take the parents to the kid. But a lot of time, Commissioner Smith's son certainly knows as a foster care social worker, foster care workers spend a lot of time just driving back and forth across the state, going to visits, taking kids to visits, transporting parents.
That number just hit me pretty hard. That's a lot of kids.
It is a lot of kids. We have, I think the highest we were at was probably close to 250 in the 5 or 6 years ago. I think the state average was really high at that time too, but we have worked hard to bring the number down, but there's still a lot of work to be done.
Thank you.
Other questions? Corey, how will folks get the information about how to apply for this DSNAP?
Sure. We have sent out some press releases today that give a lot of information about eligibility criteria and what you need to do, and also how to utilize the call center. So we'll continue to try to push out information through press releases, through social media. I believe the press release is also on the county website. So we'll try to get the information out in as many avenues as we can.
All right, any other questions?
Mr. Chairman, what is the top two or three reasons children are taking from their homes?
I mean, there's one top reason that's far and above everything else, and that's substance abuse. I mean, even if you look at cases that we don't get involved in that are initiated because of substance abuse, still probably 90% of our cases involve substance abuse in some way.
That number's like 170 out of the 185.
Yeah.
Thank you for that report tonight. Motion to accept the report as presented.
So moved, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Mr. Burns. All those in favor signify by the uplifted hand. 4-0. Thank you very much. All right, this brings us to item 12, vacancy announcements. Madam Clerk.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of the board, ladies and gentlemen of the audience. We have the following opportunities for citizens to be engaged in county boards and committees: the Adult Care and Nursing Home Community Advisory Committee, City of Morganton Board of Adjustment and Planning Board for the ETJ, Burke County Public Health Advisory Board, Hickory Regional Planning Commission, Drexel Planning Board for the ETJ alternate, Burke County Planning Board, and Partners Health Management's Human Rights Committee.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. That's a mouthful, isn't it?
It is.
All right. Again, I would encourage our citizens to take a look at these vacancies and see if you might be able to help in one way or another. You can contact our clerk for more information about that. This brings us to item number 13, closed session. We do have a need for item 13, closed session tonight. And I'll entertain a motion to go into closed session to prevent the disclosure of information that is privileged or confidential, and if needed, discuss threatened or pending litigation, to preserve the attorney-client privilege, to discuss economic development matters, to discuss contractual matters, and to discuss personnel matters as authorized by NCGS 143-318-11A 1, 3, 4, 5, and 6. Could I have a motion?
I'll make that motion, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Commissioner Carter. Those in favor signify by the uplifted hand. 4-0. Again, I'd like to thank everyone for being here tonight, and at this time, we'll move into closed session. All right, we'll consider ourselves seated back in open session at this time. And the following action occurred. 5 sets of closed session meeting minutes from 2023 were approved and sealed. January 17th, 2023, March 20, 2023, June 6, 2023, June 20, 2023, and September 18th, 2023. So with that, gentlemen, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
Mr. Chairman, I'd be very proud to make a motion to adjourn.
Thank you, Commissioner Burns. All those in favor signify by the uplifted hand. 4-0, Madam Clerk. Thank you very much.